doing the Pythagorean triplets. So without further ado, let's get along with the video. So you've probably realized that to know the Pythagorean triplets, you need to be really familiar with the Pythagoras Theorem. And I have done a video on that, and the link to that will be in the description box. You're probably wondering, what are the Pythagorean triplets? Well, for that, I've drawn a triangle again, and we're just going to go through it pretty fast. Remember, when we learned the Pythagoras Theorem, we learned that this part is the base, this part was the height, and this part is the hypotenuse. Right? We also learned when we were doing the Pythagoras Theorem that three numbers, remember the formula? A squared plus B squared gives C squared. Now, this A is the base, B is the height, and C is the hypotenuse, right? We already know that pretty. I think you've started to catch on, and I think you all realize what the Pythagorean triplets are. That's right. This A's, B's, and C's are the Pythagorean triplets. Now, why do we need to know about them? Well, let's find out. So, how do we represent these triplets? Pretty easy. It is 2m m squared minus 1 and m squared plus 1. So this is a pretty good thing. So if you know the value of m, then you can work out the Pythagoras triplets by yourself. And how do you do this? Well, you do it substituting, the value. We've learned that before. So you can watch one of my videos. I actually don't know which one it is. Silly me, but I have done substituting the values before. So I'm sure you've already got the hang of it, and I don't have to do it again. But we're going to look at some questions that are a bit more difficult than that. Now, imagine you get a question such as, write Pythagorean triplet if the smallest member is 8, or with the smallest number with 8. So we know the smallest number is 8, and that's a big clue here. How do we do it? Let's just look at the these representatives. That's what I'm going to call this. Which is the smallest of 2m, m squared minus 1, and m squared plus 1? Well, it's definitely not m squared plus 1, right? Yeah, we can rule that. Now, which one is more, m squared minus 1 or 2m? I think it's 2m because, well, 2m is just 2 multiplied by m, while m squared minus 1 will be m multiplied by itself. So I think 2m will be the smallest. So that means 2m is equal to 8. That was our sum, right? We have to write a Pythagorean triplet with the smallest member as 8. So we know what the smallest member is. That is 2m. How do we use this information to find all the other numbers? We're going to see. We know that 2m is equal to 8. Now, remember what I told you. If we know the value of m, we can find the whole triplet, right? Pretty easy. So now that we know 2m, which is 2 multiplied by m, we can easily find m by just dividing m equals to 8 divided by 2. Pretty easy. And we know that 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now we know that m equals to 4, and we already know 2m, so we just have to find m squared minus 1 and m squared plus 1. Now let's do m squared minus 1. So m, I'm going to put a bracket around 4 because 4 is m here, 4 squared minus 1 is 4 squared is 16 minus 1 is 15. And 4 squared plus 1. 4 squared plus 1, which is 17. We've actually found the triplet, which is 8, 15, and 17. Yippee! Now, let's do one more sum to get this really good. Imagine you get a sum like this. Find the Pythagorean triplets with one number as 12. Now this time they did not mention whether it has to be the smallest, the largest, or whatever. They just told you that one member should be 12. So this is pretty easy. We already know what to do. So now we have to decide which of the three, representatives, as I like to call it, are we going to use as equal to 12? Well, you can either use 2m or m squared minus 1. You could do m squared plus 1 because all the same you're just going to find m. But I think what I'm going to do, it's totally up to you. You can choose. But I think I'm going to do 2m because it's much easier for us to find, right? Because if it's m squared minus 1, we have to find the square root, subtract it, blah, blah, blah. That's going to take a long time. And 2m, you just have to divide it. So I'm going to take 2m as 12. So I'm going to do 2m gives us 12. Now, 2m is 12. So now let's find m in 2 steps. That's why I like to do 2m because you can find it pretty quickly. Now 12 divided by 2, which is pretty easy, 6. So now we know the value of m is 6, and all we have to do now is substitute it. We already know 2m, so we don't have to substitute that. So now let's do m squared minus 1. M is 6 squared minus 1. 6 squared is 36, minus 1 is 35. And then 6 squared plus 1. And 36 plus 1 is 37. So we found our Pythagorean triplets. They are 12, 35, and 37. You can check your answer by squaring 12 and 35 and seeing if you get 37 squared as your answer. A squared plus b squared gives c squared. If your answer is right, then it should match this. Alrighty, let's check our answer. So now we have the Pythagorean triplets 12, 35, and 37. So we know by the formula a squared plus b squared gives c squared. Okay, a squared plus b squared should give us c squared. Now let's apply that to this Pythagorean triplet and see if we are right. 12 squared plus 35 squared gives 37 squared. And this is a rule. The largest number must be at the end, like the giving end. Because m squared plus 1 is the largest, it should always be after the equal to, you know what I mean. It should always be c squared. Now, what's 12 squared? 144 plus 35 squared, which is 1225. And now we have to add them together. And the answer is 1369. And now, how do we know if all this is right? Well, you're gonna find the square root of 1369, and if you get 37 as your answer, then you are right. This triplet is true. So let's find the square root of that. It so happens that the square root of 1369 is 37. So our answer is right. So this is a quick way in which you can check if what you've done is right. And that's by applying the Pythagoras Theorem. If you want me to do more of these videos, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. And don't forget to share to your friends who find the Pythagorean triplets a bit difficult. And again, don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'll see you all later. Bye!